Are we about to get a crash, or are we about to see a wild earnings season rally? Let's hop into it. I'll admit, lately we've been lackluster on the videos, but have no fear, I've been hard at work doing research on all sorts of different things that are kind of exploding right now. When we're looking at the markets, what's really dominating the conversation is inflation. You know, what's going on with the supply chains? Where are those at? Right now, it looks like inflation could actually be peaking as soon as first quarter. And so we should be looking throughout the year that maybe we see a pullback on this inflation. The deep things to really dive into are what are really the issues going on with these companies, which really led me to an interesting discovery when it came to warehouses. There are tons of warehouses being built all over the U.S., and this is for the excess supply that these companies have nowhere to store with these different models of buy on demand. You know, like we don't ship it until the person buys it, and then it enters the supply chain, and then it gets shipped to you. Amazon works around this with their one-day shopping by having warehouses everywhere, but these new warehouses that are being built are all of different sizes, and you have to consider, this is important, you wouldn't build a warehouse right now if you planned on having people work at it, because there's a labor shortage, right? Which makes these robotic companies that work within these sectors really appealing. One of the other things I discovered, because I've been doing more networking with other portfolio managers and hedge fund managers, different people that work in finance, which actually I'm hoping we'll have a special announcement about maybe some more content in the Discord. I guess I'll go ahead and drop a hint that I'm hoping that we can start doing live networking calls regularly in the Discord. How periodic those will be, I'm not really sure. I'm hoping that we can do maybe like a weekly thing, a weekly call, and people can sit in and listen to that, or I will talk with other professionals and our insights into the market. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Maybe we'll record them and even put them on the YouTube. We'll see how that goes. But one of the things that really got corrected for me was my analysis in our yearly prediction video about the cannabis companies. One of the things I didn't consider was who dominates farming in the U.S. It's tobacco companies. They have the best margins. They're the most efficient farmers. They have a bunch of land. So when legalization comes around, who's going to best outcompete the black market is the real question. And that actually makes tobacco companies the biggest contenders. Something that really caught me off guard. Now that this has been brought to my attention, I've done a deeper dive and a closer look at the industry as a whole. I'm seeing cannabis companies maybe more as a trade, as sentiment will increase with federal legalization, but I'm looking at the better investment long-term opportunity to actually be with these tobacco companies and Maps in particular. Weed Maps is an app. When you're looking at the different advertising alternatives you can do if you're a cannabis company, your conversion rate with something like Weed Maps is going to be 20 times better than using Google Ads. That's something wild to consider. You should also consider that this company has been profitable for over 14 years. So they've already really got their advertising down, their target audience down. The CEO is very informative. He knows his tech. He is on top of it. I was very impressed. We watched a recent interview that Steven, who you've met before on our videos, really broke down and shared with me. These are things that you constantly have to be attentive to and have an open mind about, because this totally caught me off guard. I was wrong. I think that this is a much better route to go as an investment. So I'm really happy to share it. I hope that helps you. Now let's go ahead and take a step back from specifics. Remember, check out the link down below. You could join the Discord. You can get some more info like that. I try to share everything, especially for the subscribers, the contender members. So let's take a step back, though, from specifics. Let's talk about the market in general and also some of the politics that are at play as well, because they're having a heavy effect on the market. One of the things you need to remember, and we have a whole educational section about it, is the horizon effect that occurs in bearish markets. This applies to crypto as well. When things are in the red and they're not doing so hot, people's field of view shrinks. They start thinking about what will happen tomorrow rather than what will happen in a year. When the markets are very bullish, everything's green, everyone's thinking a decade from now or 2 decades from now, and then these stocks will rally to ridiculous values. What we're seeing as interest rates have the potential to come up is that fundamentals are starting to take play, and these companies are coming back down to more reasonable year-over-year growth with their evaluations. Because remember, stocks are priced at their forward-looking growth, which is based on their earnings. So one of the things I think the market's not considering is we have earnings season coming around. We've seen a lot of downgrades to even GDP in general. Some of those have even been negative. When we're coming into earnings, we're going to play the game of expectations. Which of these companies are too oversold? Which ones still have a little bit further to come down? When you look at Snow and Rivian, those are still pretty highly valued. Our recent Rivian short did really well. And for those that really held out for that 25% drop day, that was a really profitable trade. Snow's been a good short as well. Will these reappreciate? We don't know. We'll need to see what the market says. Granted, I think Rivian's got some more downside. I think Snow could potentially have some downside, especially when Snow's biggest clients are being upset by crypto, something to definitely keep in mind. But one of the things I could think as we're playing this game of expectations in the earnings season is we could see a nice reappreciation in stock prices. Especially the TA had it heading into the end of last week, showed that we could see a nice rally. After a 3-day weekend, everyone's feeling good. We didn't get any big headlines over the weekend. So to me, this feels like a nice bullish setup. Now, when we're talking about the macroeconomic effects at play, though, there's plenty of potential for bearish headlines. We still have this conflict going on with Ukraine and Russia. We see that Biden's putting forth new voting legislation. One of the concerns with this voting legislation is it gives all elective election powers to one individual who's not elected by the people, but rather elected by the president. To a lot of people who are bipartisan even, this is a little bit concerning because it looks like a power grab. Now, power grabs happen by both political parties periodically. This one's been especially energized by the social conversation around it as well. So it's something to consider because markets could negatively react to this. Remember, and markets like it when governments are in gridlock and they can't do anything. Markets hate it when the government becomes one-sided. Whether it's a red sweep or a blue sweep doesn't matter because people who are focused on numbers don't care about that. They care about numbers. And the numbers don't look good when the government's allowed to just shove out new bills. It makes the government more efficient, but it puts markets at risk because markets don't like it when there's lots of changes. They like when they can anticipate what's going to happen next. Now, whether we get that bullish rally, we'll just wait for the price action to confirm that. Some of the stocks I'm really looking at, Roblox, Snapchat, Roku, these are market's favorites. Roku's a very debated topic. One of the things to consider with Roku is they do have an actual moat. Remember, a moat is the competitive advantage that the company has over the competition. Roku's moat is a very technical moat. It has to do with how much it costs advertisers and how the cost efficiency of them choosing to advertise with that platform over other platforms. Now, Roku comes with some disadvantages when it comes to the fact that, if you get YouTube wiped off that platform, it hurts them terribly when it comes to their viewership. And they also don't make the ad dollars that YouTube makes. That all goes to Google. So that's something to consider with one specific company. But drawing back to the overall market, we'll wait for price action to confirm those movements. Should be a pretty obvious move. And we want to be on alert when it comes to these bearish things that could hit the market. Now, our big black swan events would be Russia making a move on Ukraine or China making a move. China's going to they're positioning themselves in such a way through the Pacific Islands that they have now military encampments around 1/3 of all global trade, which is concerning to the U.S. They're also making moves on Africa, which we've seen, I've been sharing in the headlines. And they've also, of course, made multiple threats on Taiwan. It's something that the president has been very adamant about. The CCP claims Taiwan is their territory. If we see any of this play out, any sort of negative moves on these, the market could do a quick 180. So be aware of that potential. We don't want to get too caught up if we start seeing a rally and just, all in on a bullish move only to get wiped out by some sort of scary headline. So I just want to reiterate the importance of keeping that in the back of your mind. Looking at crypto, remember, fundamentals here have not changed whatsoever. Price action might not be looking that great. We're even seeing kind of a lull in the adoption curve for these, but our fundamentals are still so strong in this sector. I have not at all allocated out of crypto. I'm actually wishing I could buy more, but I came into the year so heavy that I'm just kind of writing it at this point, which is completely fine. I have a very long time frame on these. Even if the entire market crashes, I regret nothing when it comes to the allocation of my funds. Just with my time frame, I'm not too worried about that, which is something to consider when people are attacking Cathie Woods. And remember, her big argument, when things are bearish, people are going to be really hard on her. When things are bullish, she's an absolute genius. Just pay attention to how that narrative plays out. And one of the things that we have to consider with her investments is she is on this long-term time frame. And especially when people are already talking about inflation kind of coming down a little bit and, maybe the interest rates won't be too bad. It does leave some ambiguity in this conversation. I wouldn't say that it's directly bearish right now, although I would say that a lot of these asset prices are definitely overvalued. So we could see after the earnings season kind of cools off, these come down. Although I don't want to be looking too far ahead right now. Kind of want to play close to the hand, kind of play it week over week and see how this plays out. Now with earnings, when these things were low, I went ahead and set up a few earnings plays. But I'm only keeping those a month out or so, okay? So keep that in mind. I hope you found this helpful. This is just a quick video before the week starts to kind of give you an outlook of how I'm looking at the week, what I'm looking for, and to give you some feedback on the research I'm doing because I know we've been kind of lackluster on the videos. Remember, for this upcoming week, I'm going to be slamming these out. I've got a bunch prepared. I've already written the scripts for them. We're going to do a full macro analysis this week, which I'm super pumped about for, and also keep eyes out for an announcement on those networking meetings. I think those should be a ton of fun. I'll see you in the next episode of The Nobel Show, and I hope you enjoyed.